Welcome to the Anti-Corruption Crusader podcast. I'm your host, Pana Ratana Banangkun. This podcast is our fourth episode and highlighting and recognizing professionals from around the world with passion and expertise in integrity, ethics, and anti-corruption. My hope is that these stories of their personal journey and success will help inspire you to help uplift good governance, ethics, and fight corruption wherever you are. Today, we have a very special guest. Professor Kee Hean Soh is a graduate of the University of Oxford, and he has led an amazing career in the Singaporean public service and a true anti-corruption crusader. Professor Kee Hean started his career in the Singaporean police force as an investigation officer and deployment officer. He then rose to become a commander at the Geylang Police Division. He was then promoted to the director of the Police Technology Department in 2001, and later on became the director of the highly admired Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, or CPIB, for 5 years. His more recent assignment in the public service space includes top positions at the Ministry of Home Affairs, Prison Service, and the Council for Estate Agencies. In 2020, Professor Kee Hean pivoted his career to academia when he joined the Singapore University of Social Science, where he now teaches governance, corruption, policing, crime, and public safety today. Welcome, Professor.
Yeah, thank you, Pana. Thank you for that nice introduction.
It's going to be difficult to keep this podcast under 30 minutes, as I mentioned, because you have quite a stellar and fascinating career from a police officer, from studying at Oxford to becoming a police officer and rising through the rank in the public service, and now a professor at a university in Singapore. So my first question is that you went to the University of Oxford in England. What were you studying there, and what made you decided to come back to Singapore and join the police force, Professor?
Yeah, thank you. At that time, I was, of course, quite young, and I applied for the Singapore government scholarship. And I was awarded the Singapore Police Force Scholarship. And I had the opportunity to go to Oxford to study. So the government, of course, paid for the fees and everything. And in return, I would be bonded after I graduate to serve in the police force for 8 years. And so I started off in the police as an investigating officer. And then year on year, I just stayed on. And when the 8 years was up, I could have moved on. But I decided that that was a career that I would pursue. And therefore, I just continued on until I retired from the police force at the end of 2019. And then I joined the Singapore University of Social Sciences.
Wow, that's quite amazing that Singapore would offer a scholarship for someone to study at Oxford and to become a policeman. I think that's what is very special about Singapore and the government in general, and trying to upskill the police force and the law enforcement career professionals. But let me back up a little bit. Did you set out to become a police officer? That's why you applied for the scholarship, or what made you become interested in becoming a police?
Actually, in the first instance, I did not have a plan to become a police officer. When I applied for the government scholarship, and the Singapore government will award students who do well academically every year. There will be a host of various types of scholarship. and students could be sponsored to study overseas, like in Oxford, in other universities in UK or in the US, in Australia and some other countries. And there will also be those who may be sponsored to study in our local university. So when I applied for the scholarship, I applied with the hope of getting one of the scholarships that would allow me to work in the civil service. At that time, I started to develop an interest in public service. When I was in school and I started to learn subjects such as economics. This is before we enter the university. So it really piqued my interest because when we look at some of these areas of learning, they principally aim at understanding human conditions, understanding how we progress society, how we make human lives better. And having come from a not so well-to-do a background, thought that maybe I can contribute to public service as well and play my part to contribute to the uplifting of society and the community in Singapore. So with that in mind, I thought, well, let me try to apply for the government scholarship, and through that scholarship, perhaps be bonded to the Singapore Civil Service, and then have the opportunity to play my part in the public service. So that's how I ended up making the application for the scholarship. But of course, within the Singapore government, they do have an overview of all the different scholarships that they have. There are scholarships for the police force, there are scholarships for the military service, there are scholarships for various public services within the government. And the government's Public Service Commission do have an overview, and then they will decide and allocate, and they offer the different types of scholarship to the different candidates that have applied. And this is on the basis of the interviews that are conducted, on the basis of our academic track record, on the basis of various tests that they put us through, and also for the male students on the basis of their record in the national service that they have gone through. So eventually, I was offered the Singapore Police Force Scholarship. Initially, I was a little bit reluctant, but I was convinced because at the end of the day, scholarship allocation had all been determined. So if I didn't accept the Singapore Police Force scholarship, then it may be quite hard for me to pursue a university education at that time. And there's definitely no way I could afford an education at Oxford University at that time. But having taken the British scholarship, it was, on looking back, it was something that I found challenging, and something that I think allowed me to contribute back to Singapore, and to go to UK in those years. This was in the 80s. In those years, to go to UK in those years and to be prepared to work in policing was a very good learning experience, because in the UK in the 1980s, law and order was a big preoccupation of society in the UK. There were many occasions of race riots in the UK. There were at that time major countrywide strikes by the coal miners. And then there were the ongoing terrorist threat posed by the IRA. And in fact, in the year when I was studying there, the IRA tried to assassinate the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher when they bombed the hotel she was staying in for a Conservative Party National Convention. But fortunately, she escaped unharmed. And there were also major geopolitical shifts in the region. The Soviet Union was undergoing major changes with glasnost and perestroika. And then actually the far right was starting to emerge in Europe in those years. So that kind of environment also piqued my interest and, enabled me to learn and to be prepared to enter the police service once I graduate.
That's quite a good timing there because, as you mentioned, becoming a police, you not only have to know the law but understand human behavior, as well as the geopolitics, societal issues as well. So yeah, that was a great time, and nonetheless, the '80s was the prime time for the kind of cultural sort of changes in the UK as well, right?
Yes.
So my next question is about what was the key motivation and influence for you to focus on fighting corruption? You first started to become an officer in the police force, and then later on rising to become the director of the CPIB, which is tasked to fight corruption. So how did the transition occur, and was it your choice or your interest? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, after I graduated from university, I joined the police and served kind of a mandatory bond of 8 years. And after the 8 years, I continued to serve in the police service. And as I rose in terms of seniority and in my rank within the police force, there come a time when um, I was identified and moved to various other services outside the police force. Within the Singapore government, we are quite a small public service given the size of our country. So within government, when senior officers are concerned, regardless of which services they may have come from, whether they are from the police service or from one of the ministry services, the government is able to identify and move the person to places that they think is appropriate and that will allow the officer to contribute further in his career. So that's how I was then at that time in the police force, identified and then seconded to CPIB service. Of course, there is a similarity in the work between the police and the CPIB. And given that I had a background in operational work and background in criminal investigation, as well as background in policy making work. So I was seconded to the CPIB. In the first year, I was the deputy director of the CPIB. Well, I learned from my predecessor, the director. Then the following year, I took over as the director CPIB and served 5 years as the director of CPIB. So when we are identified to go into CPIB, my understanding of it is that this is, of course, a very significant job that needs to be managed. And it has a great impact on our economic and social development within the country. Anti-corruption work has a lot to do with economics. And when a country is able to curtail corruption, then businesses can thrive. There's an even playing field for all businesses. And foreign businesses will be prepared to invest in Singapore because if there is a stable environment with no corruption, they can be more assured that they will get the returns on their investment. And Singapore is small and has to be connected to the rest of the world. So if a country like Singapore is corrupt, then on the international stage, it doesn't carry much of a reputation. And we might be sidelined in many international forums. And it will not do the country any good if corruption were to proliferate. And of course, the CPIB works internally, and its action alongside with the various mechanisms that have been put in place by government would help to fashion and mold the culture within society. So over the years, generations of CPIB officers have fought corruption and have helped to mold this culture so that today the Singapore public does not condone corruption. And it is quite often the case that if somebody tries to bribe a public officer, he cannot get away with it because the public officer will report and he'll be arrested and prosecuted in court. So it is quite important that within the country, the CPIB play this important role in combating corruption, and through it help to provide for a conducive business climate that supports economic growth, and at the same time provides help to contribute towards a social environment where corruption cannot be a way of life, but corruption is something that people will not tolerate, and people will speak up and report against. So it is quite important that we bear this in mind. And that was the kind of motivation and drive that drive myself, as well as many of my colleagues that work in that space.
Wow, that's quite fascinating. Relating back to your personal journey, becoming a police officer and then a director of the CPIB, was there any personal secret recipe to the success that you had that you can share?
I would not say that there's any secret formula. I would say that as I progressed in my career and contribute to the Singapore Public Service, I work with teams and groups of public officers. And it is important that we have a conducive environment where public officers are able to do their job and able to deliver their best services to the public. So if I'm said to have been successful, then this was in relation to the effort and contribution of my fellow colleagues. And I work with many of them, many police officers and many CPIB officers who were very hardworking, conscientious, and they worked long hours, and they kept their eye on the mission, and they delivered their best. And it is the environment that we have that would allow each and every one of us within the public service to be able to perform and to be able to meet the expectations and demands of the public. Of course, personally, as I progress in my career, I, for one, is somebody who has a little bit of persistence, a bit of standards that I set for myself as well as for my colleagues, because we do want to set some goals, and we want to achieve our dreams, and we therefore have to be prepared. And I, for one, would be prepared to step out of the boundary, to try innovative ways and new ways of doing things, and to venture forward with new ideas that would help us bring our organization and our services forward.
Right. That's great to hear that. And I think you're absolutely right that you can't do it alone, right? The more people that you have around you to help you, the better. Shifting to the corruption in Singapore topic. As you know, Singapore has been among the top 5 highest ranking countries according to the Corruption Perception Index for the past many years. And a lot of people ask me, well, if you're tasked with fighting corruption in Singapore, do you have anything to do? So I'm just curious, for a country that is doing so well in fighting corruption, what would be the challenges in maintaining that success and trying to keep the culture and the business practices clean? Can you give us some stories or examples of the challenges you have?
Yes. So we used to have very high levels of corruption in Singapore. Immediately after the Second World War, the corruption was rife, and corruption in Singapore was a way of life at that time. The public had to pay bribes in order to get essential public services. They had to bribe the policeman, they had to bribe the public officer manning the various public service counters. They even had to bribe the cleaners and even the postmen. And all these were there at that time, public officers. So it is a journey that Singapore embarked upon from the time when Mr. Lee Kuan Yew became Prime Minister in 1959. And that's where very strong concerted effort was put into building a effective anti-corruption system in Singapore. So what we have done over the years, if we reflect upon it, were in a few policy and system measures that the Singapore government had introduced. And these plans, programs, and systems that were introduced was not something which is out of the ordinary. Many countries have introduced these plans, systems, and programs In fact, when I was director CPIB, we received visits from our foreign counterparts. And oftentimes when we share our systems with them, they look at us and they say, there must be some trade secret that you are not sharing with us, because what you tell us, we already have for years, and maybe we have something even better than what you have, but your corruption rate is much lower than ours. So when we look at the matter of fighting corruption, it's important that we set up the systems, the institutions, the programs. At the same time, it is also the practical implementation and deployment that would make a difference. And this helps us, this has helped us over the years, because with stable government, the same government through the years, and consistent policy framework, and consistent approaches that were adopted by government year in and year out. There was a conducive environment that was provided for the fight against corruption. There were major changes to the legislative framework to manage corruption. So the law was clarified. What was allowed, not allowed, was clarified in the law. And the law makes it clear that nobody is exempt from the Prevention of Corruption Act. Every sector will be dealt with equally under the law. There was no sector where there may have to be special permission or special arrangements to be made before anti-corruption enforcement could be taken. There was nothing like that. So all sectors, including, of course, the cabinet, including the judiciary, all parts of the public service, the military, the police force, and all the public institutions, as well as private businesses, all were covered under the same law and equally treated the same. So the law was, the law sets a common framework and equal application with the rule of law, makes it clear to everybody what is the requirement and what is not allowed. So at the same time, the government also concentrated its policies on building strong public institutions. So in the early days, a lot of effort went into building public housing for Singaporeans, building public infrastructure such as utilities, water supply, electricity, public transportation, as well as services such as public education and public health. So a lot of government effort was put into those areas to make sure public institutions are built. They are strong, capable, and able to deliver quality services that the public needs. And undergirding this were major policy of meritocracy, where the appointment, the recruitment, the posting, the promotion and progression of public officers was based on merit and not on connections, not on network, not on corruption, cronyism, or nepotism. So the meritocratic principle has served us over the years and remained to be a mainstay of the way that the government behaves. And of course, with the consistent policies adopted by government and the political stability over the years, there was a platform and foundation of ethical leadership and political view that enabled the country to progress and to signal to all that a tough stance is taken against corruption. And that policy against corruption is then enforced by the CPIB. And the CPIB is built up to be a strong enforcement outfit that is functionally independent and able to pursue cases. And cases could be small or large. It could be grand corruption. It could be corruption among the grassroots and the frontline workers. Cases will be dealt with. And it's also immaterial whether the amount is large or small. And the CPIB will also deal with all parties involved. So it could be a giver of a bribe, receiver of a bribe. Both sides will be equally dealt with in court. If there are enablers, facilitators, middlemen, they will also be pursued and prosecuted in court as well. So it is a relentless and total enforcement approach that also helps to fight corruption and helps to remind the businesses, the public officers, as well as the public of where the line is drawn, and to encourage behavior in the right respect.
Right, Professor. That is quite interesting, and I hope that we get a chance to dive down deeper into the success of Singapore and CPIB in fighting corruption, because in many countries, as you mentioned, the structure and the laws are there, but I guess the enforcement and the framework to execute what's available, what's existing, is the weak point. And a lot of times countries, the Anti-Corruption Commission or the organization involved in fighting corruption is heavily influenced by the political side. And so hopefully in the next episode or in later episode, I can have you back as a guest to talk more about the technicalities of anti-corruption in Singapore, Professor. But unfortunately, we're out of time for this podcast. And thank you so much for becoming our anti-corruption crusader and sharing your personal stories. It's quite an amazing journey that you have there. And I hope that by sharing your stories, our audience would be inspired to progress similarly on your path and help us fight corruption. Professor Kee Hean Soh, thank you for being on this podcast, and hope to have you on another one soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Anna.
Thank you, Professor.